It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222, your emails at randykabc@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. Today, we're going to Fontana, up the 15 freeway, where there is a battle brewing between the city officials and street vendors. Look, street vending is part of the tapestry of, I guess you could say, all of California, but I would say specifically Southern California. I mean, we all know the smell. If you're walking outside of the Hollywood Bowl after a show, or even if you're going to see Shucked at the Hollywood Pantages, as soon as the show's over, you're going to see lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people with propane tanks and sheet pans and street dogs. And the Pantages, I always thought was an interesting location for that, because I don't think most people that I know don't get loaded enough to actually have the poor judgment to get a street dog there. Now, outside of a concert venue or outside of Staples Center, I don't call it by the new name, yeah, there are plenty of people. Now, I have been, even with all of my food cravings, wise enough to stay away from street dogs for a very, very, very long time. Because even though, as the wise Adam Carolla once called them, a culinary apology, because how bad could a hot dog wrapped in bacon be? I don't know where those hot dogs came from. I don't know how long that bacon's been sitting out. The whole thing seems like a health hazard to me. Now, there are several different kinds of street vending. There's lots of fruit vendors throughout Southern California. One time I was at Balboa Park, the days before the homeless took over that park, and there was a guy doing elotes. Had an elote. That was a lot of fun. Street vending, though, there is an issue when it comes to how is it regulated, because you can definitely argue that selling food in Southern California means that you have to adhere to certain rules. If you're a brick and mortar restaurant, there are a lot of rules and regulations and permits and insurance and things you have to do to maintain that business. And you have to have rigorous checks with the health department. I very much remember one of the most important things that was my job when I was a manager of several different food establishments at Magic Mountain as a teenager was preparing for those health department inspections. You kind of had an idea of when they were going to come, and you wanted to do everything you could do, because you don't want to be the guy that didn't clean up on the day the inspector was there, and that A turns into a B. By the way, fun fact, did you know that you can have 3 different pretty big violations at any restaurant and still get an A? Because pretty big violations that won't shut down your place, like, I don't know, unsanitary food conditions or crickets, that's like a 3-point violation, and it's a 100-point score. So you got to get at least 4 of those before you get down to a B, which means if you're eating anywhere with a B, good luck to you. But I'm sure you've noticed, whether it's a fruit cart or a street hot dog cart or what have you, most street vendors, most sidewalk vendors, they don't have a sticker from the health department. So nobody's inspecting those. I also, boy, it's incredible how much of my life as working as a teenager at Magic Mountain still is relevant today. One of the first jobs they gave me as a 15-year-old was to push a churro cart up to where the Superman ride was, right at the top of the hill. Which means as a 15-year-old, I had to learn how to operate a propane tank. And I had to learn all of the safety features of a propane tank. You know, I bet you nowadays they don't let 15-year-olds touch the propane tanks. But back in 2001, or 2000, I guess, they did. They let you touch those propane tanks. But you see a lot of propane tanks, and is anybody checking those to make sure they are safe? Probably not. What if one of those was to explode? Who's responsible? So let's go to Fontana, where the issue is that for the last few years, the city of Fontana has had a few ordinances when it comes to street vending. It includes making sure you get a permit so we know who's out there and that you're selling legitimate goods. You know, there is a definite problem in the state of California with people selling stolen goods. That's not so much of a thing with food as it is with selling other things, but we've seen that in places like MacArthur Park in Los Angeles, or in the Soma neighborhood and the Mission in San Francisco, where thanks to laws that were passed, written by Ricardo Lara in 2017 before he became insurance commissioner, everything that is street vending related is not a law enforcement issue. It's a health department issue or a public works issue if your county opted in. Now, I don't know if San Bernardino County opted in, but LA County opted in that, and San Francisco County opted into that. And what that meant was that if you get caught selling stolen goods, law enforcement cannot intervene. You've got to have someone from Public Works or Public Health talk to you about that, which meant in San Francisco, the Public Works employees were getting beat up. But typically, you're not seeing street vendors selling stolen food. I don't know. Maybe you are. Maybe they're stealing just a giant pallet worth of hot dogs from the Costco, and that's where they're getting the hot dogs for the street dogs. But in Fontana, they want you to have a permit, and they also want you to carry insurance. Now, this is interesting. Every business is required to have some kind of liability insurance. Otherwise, it would be a massive financial setback if you had someone injured on your property, whether it's a slip and fall or, I don't know, someone gets poisoned by a bad street dog. Insurance might be important. Well, there is a group of street vendors that has filed a lawsuit in Fontana because they claim that those mandates, that ordinance, having permits, carrying insurance, getting inspections, they say that is tantamount to discrimination, and they are now suing the city of Fontana. For more on this story, let's go to a report from NBC4.
Meantime, a group of street vendors in Fontana has filed a lawsuit against the city. They're hoping to change the way the city allows them to operate. The group says the current ordinance there discriminates.
That is a loaded word, because discriminate can mean a whole bunch of different things. Usually, discrimination, which can be a legal term when you're talking about employment discrimination, or typically you're talking about some kind of class, whether it's by race or by gender or who knows what. But I didn't know that you could be discriminated against based on you sell food from a cart.
NBC4's Christian Caceres live right now in Fontana. Christian, any response from the city yet?
Well, Colleen, a spokesperson for the city of Fontana, says they have no comments because they haven't had a chance to look over this lawsuit. But I can tell you that a group of street vendors, they gathered outside of City Hall this morning to discuss the city's ordinance on how to legally operate in the city. They say it is discriminating because not everyone can achieve it.
Okay, let's see how this is discrimination, because this is the land of equal opportunity. We don't want anyone being discriminated against, so let's find out how Fontana's street vending ordinance is discriminatory.
Tiraron los elotes.
A frustrated street...
Was that elotes?
Tiraron los elotes.
A frustrated street vendor capturing the scene playing out in Fontana in 2023, when they say code enforcement officers prevented them from operating. Antonio Pintado says his family depends on those sales to make a living. He's been selling fresh food since the pandemic, when he says that was his only option to make money.
El trabajo digno
Es un derecho.
On Tuesday, Pintado joined a group of other street vendors in a lawsuit, hoping to change some of the city's requirements to legally operate, which they say is discriminatory.
Okay, how is this discriminatory? Let's find out here.
Vendors are being punished and driven out by the city through their illegal ordinances that require vendors to purchase multi-million-dollar insurance policies and submit to yearly background checks in order.
That's it? So, in order to operate legally in the city of Fontana, which they could just come to the city of Los Angeles, they don't enforce this stuff. There's street vending all over the place. You ever been to outside of the post office on Sherman Way at the 405 at Haskell? Every single stretch of that is some kind of vending, and I don't know about you. There are certain things that I might be willing to try from a street vendor. Probably tacos if it's a meat, like not chicken, but beef you have a little give with if it's cooked at the right temperature. I would never buy a chicken taco from a street vendor, but in birria, it really depends on what the meat is. Because originally birria was supposed to be like goat meat, but if you really know what you're doing, you use short ribs. That being said, there's a street vendor in front of that post office on Sherman Way that sells menudo, and they're selling it in the middle of summer. And I don't know, maybe I'm a prude. I'm not trusting street menudo. Also, when I'm in my car, soup is the last thing I want to be trying to consume.
In order to qualify for a permit.
Hey, stop.
Over the years, street vendors say they have been harassed by code enforcement, and scenes like this one repeatedly captured on video, where the product they sell are tossed and dumped in the trash.
They confiscated vendor goods, they issued threats to the community, and they left families without due process or explanation.
Well, if you're selling food that is spoiled or expired or not cooked properly, I don't know if due process is going to work for you. What do we put that food in a refrigerator until the case is adjudicated? For once, I'm surprised to see a city, it's a small city, but seeing a city actually enforce health codes with some of these cards. Now, with the fruit vendors, it's a much less big of a deal. I mean, they've got all the ice there and they're cutting up the pineapple. Not a whole lot of risk there, although there can always be contamination. Who knows if they're wearing gloves? I mean, look, you start thinking about food preparation too much, you're going to turn into somebody that has OCD. But when it comes to certain things that are being cooked right there on the side of the road, yeah, you might want a little regulation there. I don't know.
In 2022, the city of Fontana enacted their ordinance, which they say was a result of unlicensed sidewalk vending, safety, and possible unsanitary food preparation conditions. Revisions have been...
I mean, you don't want to see tubs full of raw chicken just sitting out in the sun. Again, you might enjoy a taco cart or two. Do not get chicken tacos. Don't do it. You don't know how it's, chicken doesn't have a lot of wiggle room. Poultry does not have a lot of wiggle room. Beef does.
Revisions have been made over the years following educational workshops, but violations kept occurring. In 2023, the city says food was confiscated over 400 times. The lawsuit aims...
What is going on up there?
The lawsuit aims to overturn local policies that require vendors to maintain expensive insurance policies and ensure a mandatory 30-day hold on confiscated carts.
Boo to the city!
Well, there should be some kind of punishment, you would think, if you're selling spoiled food and endangering society. I mean, this is, if believe you me, if you're a restaurant and you do that, or even a food truck, which are less regulated than brick and mortar restaurants, but obviously more regulated than carts, if you sell spoiled food and somebody gets sick, yeah, you might want insurance for something like that because that could lead to a lawsuit.
Boo to the city! Boo!
It's unclear if any of the...
I don't know if it's just me, but chanting makes us as a people sound dumb.
Boo to the city! Boo!
It's unclear if any of those cases involved this group, but Pintado hopes it will help others like him get the green light to be able to make an honest living.
Pues me gustaría que dijeran, ¿sabes qué? Aquí te va tu permiso, te lo pago, y pues que nos dieran esa oportunidad.
Oh, I thought they were going to translate that. Well, he probably wanted to make a living selling his wares.
And according to the city's website, food vendors, again, it is illegal here in the city as long as vendors follow safety code regulations, have the proper permits, and also they also have restrictions on what kind of food they can sell. But again, street vendors tell me today they just hope that the city will listen to some of their concerns. That way they can legally operate here in the city and in their hometown. We're live in Fontana. Christian Cáceres, NBC4 News.
So there's what's going on in Fontana, and this could be a case, might even go to trial if there's not some settlement here. So you might be someone, hypothetically, that gets picked to be on a jury in a case specifically about the claims that the street vendors are making in Fontana. So based on all the evidence that was just presented to you, I've got a simple question for you. At 800-222 KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Do you think Fontana's street vending ordinances are discriminatory? Fontana says in order to be a street vendor, you have to get a permit, be subject to safety and health inspections, and carry insurance. Do you think that ordinance is discriminating against street vendors? I'd love to hear your opinion on this, especially if you're a consumer of food or you operate a restaurant or a food cart or a food truck, whatever it is. Everyone's got an opinion because these street vending carts have had some interaction in our lives. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Do you think Fontana's ordinance on street vending requiring the vendors to carry insurance and be subject to permits and health inspections is discrimination? Give me a call right now. It's time for you to weigh in on this. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Get on the line right now. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. In the city of Fontana, a group of street vendors is suing the city. They say that Fontana's ordinance for street vending, which includes getting a permit, getting insurance, and being subject to health inspections, is discriminatory. What say you? Do you think that accounts to discrimination? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's start with Sandy in Riverside. Sandy, hello.
Hello?
Sandy, hey.
Hi. Hi, are you there?
You're on the air.
Oh, okay. No, I think it's a great idea, and they should have done it sooner because they're taking money away from storefronts that have to pay rent, have to pay insurance, have to make sure they abide by all the laws, and that we eat safe food. And I think they should have did it long time ago. It's not fair that they can get away with it, and I'm appalled of them thinking that, you know, they're entitled to do whatever they want to do. I mean, shoot, you know, why wouldn't everybody do what they want to do? Because there's laws. And everybody today feels as if they're entitled to do what they want to do, and they don't have to listen to the law. And if we don't want to go by the law, then let's just sue somebody. Come on. Give me a break, people. That's my thought.
I think you make a really strong point. Thank you so much for the call, Sandy. It's almost like the vendors in Fontana want to become a protected class because A lot of them might be poorer, that the same health code laws that make sure that they are selling safe food doesn't apply to them as it would apply to any other establishment if they're a brick and mortar or even a food truck. And there's got to be some minimum standards when we're talking about food safety. As someone that has given himself food poisoning back in 2007, believe you me, I want to make sure anybody that's cooking anything, especially fish, knows what they're doing. 800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. Do you think the city of Fontana's ordinance against street vendors, that they have to get insurance, have permits, and get health inspections, is discrimination? Because that's what the vendors are alleging. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. If you're on hold, stay on hold. We're taking a whole bunch of your calls next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222, your emails at randykabc@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. We're taking your phone calls right now at 800-222-KABC. The city of Fontana is being sued by a group of street vendors that say the city's ordinance against street vending, which includes street vendors have to get permits, carry insurance, and be subject to health inspections, is discriminatory. What say you? Let's start with Roger in Rancho Cucamonga. Roger, hello.
Hi, Randy. You know, as a
Howdy.
business owner, we see these people move in. They move in, take up your space. They don't pay rent. They don't have insurance or any of that kind of stuff. We're required to pay rent to meet all of the regulations and everything. And I have to provide $2 million worth of insurance, which is expensive. And then secondly, from a standpoint of a restaurant, you have the liability from somebody getting sick from eating your food. So, you know, it seems to me that these people are a little over the line when they start trying to sue the city for not allowing them to do something they shouldn't be doing in the first place.
Well, and there has to be an orderly way to make this happen. Like, for instance, what you see in like downtown LA around MacArthur Park, where street food vending stands can set up shop literally in front of restaurants, that's uncalled for. And the fact that the city does nothing about it, that is the wrong way to do it.
No, I agree with you fully. That's the point that I was making. Is that these people have no responsibility to anybody except themselves. Chances are that they're not paying income tax on the money that they make, and they're damaging the restaurants, for instance, a restaurant that they're parking in front of. So it doesn't seem to be fair. I laud them for wanting to work, but find something else to do.
Well, and, you know, a lot of these people say, well, during COVID, there was nothing else to do. Well, COVID is a long time ago, and there's help wanted signs in almost every restaurant that I walk past. Thanks so much for the call, Roger. Appreciate it. Let's go to Scott in Hollywood. Scott, hello.
Randy, hi. Thanks for taking my call. I know a question you're going to ask me. Yeah, this is day 111 of Karen Bass's failure to make good on her promise of a pay cut. So I saved you some time on asking me that question. You know, it is discriminatory, but it's discriminatory about people with who have actual food retail establishments. You know, nobody wants to say this, but this is primarily, I think, race-based. It's basically, you know, if we had Randy and Scott's All-American Burger, we probably would be shut down. You know, I just passed the Hollywood dog park up in Upper Beechwood Canyon, which is where I go every day on the way home. I just spoke to one of the food vendors, and I knew the answer. I asked her where she, pretended like I had to go to the bathroom. I said, "Where do you go to the bathroom?" "Oh, down that hill." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, where do you wash your hands?" There's no running water. There's no bathroom facilities. They're there for maybe 8 hours a day in the sun, cutting fruit, and they're utilizing the hillside to defecate and urinate and then come back and cut some more fruit. This is a big problem. You know, you have tourists there who are unsuspecting, and people reasonably expect food safety to be monitored, and it's not. And so what happens to these tourists when they're on the plane going back to wherever they come from and they get sick? You know, they begin to wonder. I'm a lawyer. Food poisoning is hard to prove the source. You know, this lawlessness is just so accepted in Los Angeles that it's just getting people to begin to ponder, if they haven't pondered already, an escape route, an escape out of here. But we're tethered here. We're tethered here by our families and our friends and our businesses. But you're right. I appreciate you taking this call and addressing this issue, because people are being harmed, and competitive retail establishments are also being harmed, and that's the unspoken aspect of this.
Well, Scott, I really appreciate your call, and I think you being so descriptive about exactly what's going on out there is going to cause this entire audience to lose 5 pounds this weekend. So thank you so much, buddy. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Let's go to Miguel in San Fernando. Miguel, hello.
Yes, hello, Randy. Thanks a lot for your show. Hope you don't leave L.A. We need you here. I know it's tough, but anyways, it cannot be discriminatory. It's being applied to everybody. They have to everybody equally. They have to get insurance. You know, they have to get it inspected. You know, if they do not do that, like here in our city of San Fernando, we have some permits. Even though I don't agree with all the sidewalk wedding, but there's permits. But if you see any of the city of Pacoima, you come visit our swap meet. You just go on the other side of the city of San Fernando, and you'll see the area in Pacoima, the city of L.A. Not to talk bad about the city of L.A., but unfortunately, I love the city of L.A., but unfortunately, everything's being allowed. You go there, you cannot walk. There's issues with trash there. There's grease on the floor. There's parking problems. You see people park there. You don't know if they're selling illegal items. You cannot walk there. It creates problems with homeless. So it's a lot of issues that are created by street vending. And if there's no regulations, wow, it's just going to create so many problems that people pretty soon, they're not going to want to live in the city of L.A. or live in any part of the L.A. County because everything's permitted. It creates a lot of problems. People already talked about, not them paying taxes. We don't know how they're getting paid. So I hope this lawsuit doesn't go through. But, given with all the liberal judges here, we don't know. But thanks a lot for your call. And I don't know what we can do just to, try to protect L.A. County or the state of California. Thank you. Really, really appreciate everything you do.
Well, thank you so much for the call, Miguel. Appreciate it. And I'm so glad that he brought up, when you're talking about vendors that are frying food, what do you do with that oil? What do you do with that grease? Where is it going? I think at one point Ulysses tried to propose at LA City Hall a program where we'd have a city-run truck that would go around to all the street vendors and collect their grease. I don't know if that's the right way to go about this. Let's go to Bobby in Dana Point. Bobby, hello.
Hello. Hey, Randy. What about, yes, first of all, yes, this is discrimination, not discrimination against race, but against qualification and certification. Because think about carpenters, electricians. There's so many trades that have to have a certification. You can't just go out and build a house without being licensed. What about doctors? What about dentists? What about accountants? As long as it's not race-based discrimination, it's qualification-based discrimination. I'm 100% behind it, 100% for it.
You just gave me a great idea. I'm going to get a cart, and I'm going to go to my local park this weekend, and I'm going to put up Randy's Street Dentistry. See if I get any customers.
Do it.
Thanks so much for the call, Bobby. Appreciate it. Let's go to Inga in L.A. Inga, hello.
Hi. That was a good one. No, this ordinance is not discrimination. That's not only about food poisoning, but they are making so much noise. They are using train horns and loudspeakers and police sirens and boom, boom sounds, And then all that dirt what they have and grease. So rats are coming and cockroaches are coming. So I have this problem here in Los Angeles since they put Guatemalan General Consulate on the Riverside Drive and the Well Corner. And, it's every day like hell. And then there are people, with children locals who lives here, and elderly people who uses wheelchair. So they cannot roll anymore because all, sidewalks are taken by them, by those street vendors, That's crazy. Really.
That is a really, really good point, Inga. Thank you so much for calling in. If you operate a restaurant and your soap dispenser is more than, I think, 3.5 feet tall, you'll get sued over ADA compliance. But while we support people wanting to be entrepreneurs and start their own businesses, nobody has the right to block the sidewalk and block access from people who need it. Because you know what? People in wheelchairs, whether it's going through a homeless encampment or a taco truck or a taco cart, they need to be able to use that sidewalk. And that is a very legitimate concern. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. If you're on hold, stay on hold. More of your calls coming up next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Thanks for holding, everyone. Let's go to Michael in downtown L.A. Michael, hello.
Hi. How are you?
Mike,
I just went and got 4 chicken tacos just for you here at my street vendor. I live downtown L.A. here on 8th and Union.
You're a braver man than I.
We got to give our street vendors a lot more credit. They are in L.A. because you said they're allowed to do it here. Every city's allowed to have its own codes. Fontana has their code, so that's fair. Just like your caller said from San Fernando, he said a lot of really true things. And if you come to Los Angeles at this point, you can sell everything and anything. There's all kinds of vendors. We got a guy here at Jack in the Box selling used tennis shoes. We got another guy here selling jewelry. Okay, so the bottom line is with food, you can buy it or not. But let me tell you, in L.A., this is where I'm born and raised. I went to Belmont High School. I love my street vendors. I eat all the time. Just ate 4 tacos. Look, we like our street vendors. That's why we have Los Angeles. We're not Fontana. Okay, this is Los Angeles. This is what we do. We've been doing this since 1930. I'm a white man, 100% from Malibu, and I love this stuff. I ended up moving out here as child. Been out here a long time. I'm in my late 40s. Bottom line is there's permits now that these vendors do have to qualify and do things right, and they do. The guy who said he don't wash his hands, how does he know he doesn't wash his hands? Lawyers find stuff wrong with everything. Those people don't have to answer to him when they ask him where they wash their hands. They very well probably do things right and wash their hands correctly. I want your audience to hear that. That was nice of that man. Bottom line is our street vendors are good, really good people. I
don't think anyone's arguing that they're not good people. I mean, you're talking about honest, hardworking people, but should there be a system where they're regulated and we're making sure that they're held to the same standards when it comes to food preparation as brick and mortar and food trucks? And I think there is a legitimate argument for that, but I totally understand your love for it, and good luck with you going for the chicken tacos. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. If I go to you, you got about 30 seconds. Let's start with Brent in L.A. Brent, hello.
Hi, Randy. Yeah, I'm old-fashioned. I'm a big believer in discrimination. All laws, morals, sanity, and civilization is built upon being discriminatory, especially against crime, lies, and barbarism. And that's why God gave us the 10 Commandments to make these distinctions. So discrimination is a Democrat weasel word meant only to deceive and con good, honest people.
Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. Let's go to Thad in San Gabriel. Thad, hello.
Hello. I just wanted to say if they allow unregulated food vendors without insurance and someone gets sick, why not sue the city? you're going to open yourself up for tens of millions of dollars of lawsuits because someone's responsible. The individual's never responsible. I get sick from food. It's the responsibility of Fontana. Would you agree?
You know what? I think that might be why LA has so many liability payouts. I wonder if they've ever had to settle for that. I bet you they have. Thanks so much for the call. Let's go to Rosie in Santa Ana. Rosie, hello.
Hi, I'm so sorry. So my only comment is I think that there's a miscommunication based off of what a vendor said in Spanish, and that wasn't translated on your show. I think it reflects how a lot of vendors are feeling. It sounds like vendors want permits, but the fact is that when you touch food or start to sell food, there's certain requirements that are easier for businesses versus food vendors to meet. For example, the use of a commercial business, the use of a commercial kitchen, but we're also not taking into account all the costs that it actually takes to rent an actual building. So these costs are substantial for somebody who wants to start a business, therefore making it more reasonable to open a street stand. I think that's
I totally understand, but there has to be a minimum standard when we're talking about handling food. And if it's hard to explain how to get them the permits, we got to work on that. It's the News Blitz on KABC.